Hey guys, um, what's been going on has been pretty disturbing, and we're not supposed to be okay with that. This is not a time where peace is prevalent, but blessed are the peacemakers. So, what I'm going to attempt to do is persuade those who call on the name of the Lord to do what he says. Because there's a lot going on right now that's not what he said, particularly in regards to Christians. So it gets to a point to where people, as soon as they even hear that name Christian, they associate it with so many things that have nothing to do with Christ. And in particular regards to all of the hatred going around in my country, in America, I just want to read a couple of things from Jesus' sermon here. I'm going to go to Matthew 5, and I'm going to be reading out of the West version of the expanded translation of the New Testament, because he really gives you what Jesus was meaning with his words. So I'm going to start in Matthew 5, because if we read this, we can really put to an end a lot of what is going on. In Matthew 5, when he starts with the Sermon on the Mount, it says, "And having opened his mouth, he went to teaching them, saying, Spiritually prosperous are the destitute and helpless in the realm of the Spirit. Why? Because theirs is the kingdom of heaven." This doesn't mean that you should remain destitute. It means that if you are, yours is the kingdom. This is what you get. Spiritually prosperous are those who are in mourning, because they themselves shall be encouraged and strengthened by consolation. Spiritually prosperous are those who are meek, because they themselves shall inherit the earth. Meekness. Spiritually prosperous are those hungering and thirsting for righteousness, because they themselves shall be filled so as to be completely satisfied. The reason why we are completely satisfied is because we were hungering and thirsting for righteousness. You can't say that you want righteousness, you want justice, but you're not completely satisfied, because God promised here, Jesus promised, that you would be completely filled. Spiritually prosperous are those who are merciful, not merciless, merciful, because they themselves shall be the objects of mercy. You want mercy? Give it. Spiritually prosperous are those who are pure in the sphere of the heart. Why? What happens? Because they themselves shall see God. We got so many people claiming to have seen God, but you're not pure in the heart. It's not what Jesus said. Watch this. Spiritually prosperous are those who make peace. Peacemakers, not peacekeepers. He said spiritually prosperous are those who make peace, because they themselves shall be called sons of God. You want to be a son of God? Make peace. Not keep it. Make it. Spiritually prosperous are those who have been persecuted on account of righteousness, because theirs is the kingdom of heaven. If you're persecuted because of righteousness' sake, the kingdom of heaven is yours. That's a good thing. The persecution may not be good, but you know why. It's for righteousness' sake. Spiritually prosperous are you whenever they shall revile you and persecute you and say every pernicious thing against you, speaking deliberate falsehoods on account of me, on account of Jesus. Be rejoicing and exult exceedingly, because your reward is great in heaven. Shouldn't be complaining about these. For in this manner they persecuted the prophets who were before you. As for you, this is where it gets good. You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its pugnancy, by what means can its saltness be restored? For not even one thing is it of use any longer, except having been thrown out to be trampled underfoot by men. As for you, you are the light of the world. A city is not able to be hidden, situated on top of a mountain. Neither do they light a lamp and place it under the bushel, but upon the lampstand, and it gives light to all those who are in the house. That's the purpose of being a light. It's not for you to be blessed. It's not for you to get a new car and post it and talking about God is great to me. It's about being a light to somebody else. He clarifies this. In the same manner, let your light shine before men in order that they may see your good works and in order that they may glorify your Father who is in heaven. So all of this is about giving God glory. We talked about giving God glory by praising Him, but Jesus talks about giving God glory by this. Now, if we read it in context, now we can see what Jesus is talking about when he says these lines right here. Do not begin to suppose that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. See, this is in context to giving glory to God by the way that we act. For assuredly, I am saying to you, until the heaven and earth pass away, not one smallest letter, nor smallest letter marking shall pass away from the law, until all comes to pass. Whoever therefore shall deprive of authority one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever shall do and teach them, not teach them, not go around talking, but whoever shall do and teach them, this man shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I am saying to you, unless your righteousness excels that of the men learned in the sacred scriptures and that of the Pharisees, not in any case will you enter the kingdom of heaven. You see, so all of this Jesus is talking about doing and teaching. Because a lot of times we do a lot of talk, but we don't do the living part of it. And this is the problem with the Pharisees. It's not that what the Pharisees were saying that was so bad. When they were saying, live this way, do this, that was fine. Jesus even said that. He said that the things that the Pharisees are saying are not bad, but it's the fact that they don't actually do it. See the difference? So all of this, Jesus is talking about what you should do. Okay? So he teaches us how to deal with what's going on in today's society. Watch this. You heard that it was said by those of a previous time, you shall not commit murder, and whoever commits murder shall be subject to the judgment. Okay, so he's saying these are things that you heard. He didn't say that these were written in the law. No, he said this is what you heard. Because there's a lot of talk as to what's right and what's wrong. Watch how he corrects this. But as for myself, I am saying to you, everyone who is provoked to anger against his brother shall be subject to the judgment. See, he wasn't setting the bar lower. He was setting it higher. He's saying, you heard that whoever commits murder, bad. But I'm telling you that if you're even provoked to anger against your brother, bad. You see, we tend to judge others based on what they do, but forget about ourselves. If you're even offended by something, you're wrong. See, Jesus is now taking the lampstand, he's taking the mirror and he's putting it in front of yourself. See, we can always point out that somebody does something wrong, but now he's saying turn it around. Look at you. If you're even provoked to anger against your brother, you're the wrong one. We have to look at that. He's teaching us how we should be. Moreover, whoever says to his brother, Rakah, that is, you senseless empty head, shall be liable to the Sanhedrin. But whoever shall say, More, that is, you imprudent man, without forethought or wisdom, shall be liable to the hell of fire. See, all of this going on. You got to be careful. You imprudent man without forethought or wisdom. Sounds like a lot of the stuff that we're posting. Sounds like a lot of the stuff that we're saying about leadership, about our president, about the administration, about school systems, about everyone. You're in danger. Because you shouldn't even be offended in the first place. Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar of whole burnt offerings, and there you remember that your brother has something against you, leave there your gift before the altar of whole burnt offerings and be going away. First, this is what you should do. First, be reconciled to your brother, and then, having come, be offering your gift. You see, he's saying we need to have relationships with people. We need to have our relationships on point first, before we even try to offer to God. A lot of times we're like, just praise our way through. How are you praising your way through when you're also at the same time having issues with people, with your brothers? I know what you're thinking. That's not my brother. We'll get to that later. All right, this one he talks about adultery, but I'm not even going to get into that because there's a video that I have on that on soul ties. So I'm just going to skip that. I'll put a link in the description to the video on soul ties. You can talk about adultery. You have heard it was said, and this is good. This is where we really get into Christians. You heard it was said, an eye in substitution for an eye, a tooth in substitution for a tooth. You hurt me, I hurt you. You keep hating on me, I hate you. And then we try to justify it. Like, for instance, oh, I don't hate people, I hate what they do. But people are your target. Watch what Jesus says here. But as for myself, I am saying to you, do not set yourself against the evil which is in active opposition to the good. But whoever slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him also the other. Remember how he said before? You shouldn't even get offended. And to the one who desires to summon you to be put on trial and have judgment passed upon you for the purpose of taking away your undergarment, yield up your outer garment also. They want to take something from you, give them more. I saw that story of this man who was being robbed, and it's amazing. He demonstrated Christ to him. When the police had him arrested, the man came out and he was just like, "Oh, you forgot this," and he was giving him more of his items. So not only did the guy not get arrested, he got more. That doesn't even make sense, right? If somebody wants to put you on trial, they want to take your stuff, give them more. Why? Because the fire that's in their heart is going to be put out with the water that's coming from you. Somebody attempted to take something unrighteously away from you, and you gave them more. That's how Jesus says fight. Watch this. And whoever commandeers your services, that means that they didn't ask for it. They took it. They're demanding your services as a courier for a mile. Be going off with them 2 miles. They want to make you carry stuff a mile? Carry it for 2. And these, he was talking about the Romans, because they would often make the Jews do stuff for them. Because they were in power, they could do that. So he's basically saying how to treat your oppressors. If people try to oppress you, show them that they don't have power over you by doing more. They try to oppress you by yelling at you, let them keep yelling. Go ahead. Let them get it out. See, it takes power to do that. We think that it takes power to beat people up. No, it takes power to allow yourself to get beaten. And then when they're done, you minister to them. It's tough. Because then when they say something about your mama or your daddy, or they don't like you, you got to take it. Jesus is saying, take it twice as much as they want to give. It's in your Bible. If you call yourself Christian, this is what Jesus is saying. This is how we're going to win. Okay? Be going off with him 2 miles. To the one asking you for something, give. Somebody asks for something, give it. Money, anyone? To the one asking you for something, give. And from the one who desires to borrow money from you at interest, do not turn away. Kind of like how we ignore all of these people who need food, who need money. He's saying if people want to borrow money, go ahead. They're going to pay you back anyway. Then if they don't, who cares? It's just money. Watch this. You have heard that it was said, here we go, you shall love your friend and hate the one who is hostile to you. Isn't that exactly what's going on today? We love those who stand with us. We post things and we like when people click like. We don't even like when people don't click like. We're hostile to the one who hates and opposes us. Bring that down to this neighborhood. See if you can get away with that. We're hostile towards people who don't like us. Isn't that what Jesus said? You heard that. You have been taught that that's the truth, that that's the way that you're supposed to act. Funny how he said this over 2,000 years ago, and we're still doing it. How does he say? But as for myself, I'm saying to you, be loving with a divine, self-sacrificial love to those who are hostile to you and hate and oppose you. Isn't that what racism is? They hate you. They think that they're better than you just because they are of different ethnicity. They hate you. But Jesus says, be loving with a divine, self-sacrificial love. That means you die to self. You don't point out them, you die to self. That's how racism is defeated. Watch this. He goes on to say, be praying for those who are persecuting you. He didn't say to line up in a rally. He didn't say to point out how bad they are and how wrong it is and how morally wrong it is and then post things up about signing petitions to take down statues or any of that. He said, be praying for those who are persecuting you in order that you may become sons of your Father in heaven. You're not even a son of God. You're not even a child of God if you don't pray for those who persecute you. Watch this. Because his sun he causes to shine on those who are actively opposed to that which is good, and upon those who are good. The sun shines on both. And causes it to rain on those who are fair and equitable in their dealings with others, and on those who are not. Here's the key. For if you are loving those who are loving you, what reward are you having? What good is it to love somebody who already loves? Are not even the collectors of taxes doing the same? Not even Trump doing that? Loving who's loving him? And if you greet with deference, that means those who, if you greet them with humbleness, with submission, if you yield to them, and you respect your brethren only, what more are you doing? What are you doing by only greeting those and respecting those who respect you? Are not even the pagan Gentiles doing the same? People don't need to be saved to love those who love them. People do not need to be called children of God if you respect people who are already respectable. That's not where the power comes in. The power comes in to love with a self-sacrificial love those who are not respecting you. That's power. Therefore, as for you, you shall be those who are complete in your character. And in English it says, in the King James it says, be perfect. Being perfect doesn't mean you're not able to do wrong. Being perfect means you're complete in your character. That's why God calls you perfect. Because if you are righteous, he views you that way. So be complete in your character, even as your Father in heaven is complete in his being. So as the Father, you do that. If he's loving those who are disrespectful, and he is letting the the sun shine on those who hate him, you got to let your light shine on those who hate you. Seems like Jesus is not lowering the standard, saying you can sin and get away with it. Seems like he's raising the bar and saying those who hate you, love them. That's how you win, guys. Epic win. Love those who hate you. And then we're going to go to Matthew 7, because if you read Matthew 5, 6, and 7, it puts to shame a lot of stuff that's going on. But for the sake of the time, I'm just going to go here, because Matthew 7, this is the chapter that a lot of people like to use when they're messing up and doing wrong. They like to smoke weed and then talk about don't judge, right? Let's read it in context, because if you remember, Jesus is talking about how you treat people, right? Matthew 5, he's talking about in the beginning, if you're not better than the people who claim that they're so saved, that they're God's people, if you claim to be better than that, this is how you have to act. So he's continuing here in Matthew 7, same sermon. Stop pronouncing censorious criticism. That's what it means, don't judge. In order that you may not be the object of censorious criticism. This is the same sentence. It doesn't say don't judge. He has a whole sentence here. Stop pronouncing censorious criticism in order that you may not be the object of censorious criticism. For with that judgment by which you are judging, you will also be judged. And with that standard of judgment with which you are judging, by that standard will judgment be passed on you. He's not saying don't judge at all. He's saying, why are you doing censorious criticism on people and then not expecting to be judged the same way? You see, we often do things and we feel that it's okay. But then when somebody else does something, we hold them to such a high standard. That's what he's saying. He said, don't do that when you do the same stuff. Okay? You cannot, when somebody does you wrong, pronounce judgment upon them, but then when you do something wrong, you have every excuse in the book. You have an excuse as to why you did something. See, that's what he's saying. He's saying, why do you contemplate the splinter of wood in the eye of your brother, and do not put your mind upon the log in your own? You got stuff in your eye too. How can you have ill will towards somebody of another race for whatever reason, even if that reason is they hate you? How can you have ill will toward them? How can you hold them to a standard and say that they cannot be this way when you also have ill will in your heart? See, that's what don't judge is talking about. It's not saying, well, you can't say that somebody's doing something wrong. Watch what he says here. How will you say to your brother, permit me to draw out the splinter from your eye, and look, the log is in yours? You can't help somebody when you've got stuff going on. Does that mean that no one can address anything because we all have problems? No, you just can't address the problem that you're still dealing with. If you have issues with alcohol, Jesus is saying you can't fix somebody else's problem. You can't tell them that they're wrong and they're bad and you're still drinking. No, what Jesus says is, watch this, look at what he calls you. O actor on the stage of life. He calls you an actor on stage when you're trying to fix people's problems and you're still dealing with those problems. Draw out first from your eye the log, and then you will see clearly to draw out the splinter from the eye of your brother. He's not saying don't fix the problem. He's saying that if you have something in your eye, you can't fix theirs. You need to fix yours first. Because if you so much as even try, everything that you're doing, you're an actor on stage. You're a hypocrite. You're judging people as to how wrong they are when you got stuff that's wrong with you in the same fashion. Well, I'm not as bad as they are. Doesn't matter. You still got stuff in your eye. That same substance of wood that's in yours is in theirs. And you're judging them at a high standard. Remember, he said, you've heard that you shouldn't commit adultery. But if you so much as look at a woman with the intent of lust, you've committed adultery. See, some of us think that because we haven't committed adultery, we point the finger at those who have. Yet you're watching porno. You're looking at a woman with the intent to lust, but then going out and telling your brother, you got to fix this. You can't do that. You cannot hold someone to a standard because God's standard is so high that you're wrong too. So you need to fix it. And God would not tell you to do something that you couldn't do. So if he's telling you not to look at women with the intent of lust, he's telling you for a reason. Now you can help your brothers. Now you can love them with a self-sacrificial love. See, that's what don't judge is talking about. Keep on asking for something and it shall be given. Keep on seeking and you shall find. Keep on reverently knocking and it shall be opened to you. And here's the thing, right here, here's the caveat. Therefore, all things whatever you may be desiring men to be doing to you, in the same manner also as for you, you be doing to them. For this is the law and the prophets. It's the golden rule. This is the part that is very concerning. Because later on Jesus goes on to talk about not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom. It's the people who do the will of the Father, not the person who hears it and doesn't do it. This is the parable of the man who built his house upon the sand. He heard the word. You go to church. You hear the word. You have access to a Bible. You also have access to 50 million other applications on your phone so you don't read your Bible, but still, you heard it. You've heard which is the right way to treat your enemies. Not just those who call yourselves brothers, but your enemies. Love your enemies. Do good to them that are persecuting you. And they hate you. You're supposed to be doing good to them. But when you don't do it, you're like the person who built his house on the sand. You hear it. You got a nice big house. You got a nice big church. You got a nice big confession. You serve God. You serve Allah. Buddha, Siddhartha Gautamas, all of it. You got a nice big confession. But when the time comes to display that power of being able to love your enemies, you can't do it. No matter how much yoga you take, no matter how many chakras you've opened, no matter what you do, no matter how much meditation you do, no matter how much, when it comes time to love the one who is persecuting you, you can't do it. You heard it, but as soon as that storm came, and as soon as somebody offended you, you reacted. When Jesus says, you don't even have the right to be offended. That's how big this is. Racism is wrong. People who believe that they are just better than somebody else based on your ethnicity, the color of your skin on the outside, whatever. God does not distinguish between race. In the kingdom, there's neither male nor female. There's neither Jew nor Greek. Okay? God does not distinguish between races in the kingdom. On earth we do, but in the kingdom we don't. This is why I don't call myself a black Christian. I don't put my earthly heritage before my Lord. Anyway, it is wrong. However, in this country, that is a person's right to think that. If you think that you're better than me because of the outside color of your skin, go ahead. It does not hurt me. I know who I am. So if you call me something that's out of my name, I don't even respond. If somebody were to yell up the street and say, hey, white girl, I wouldn't even turn around because that's not who I am. So if somebody wants to hate me and call me all types of bad things, I don't even respond because that's not who I am. Who are you? Are you one who takes offense to all of these things and doesn't follow the Beatitudes? Or finds some other scripture probably in the Old Testament, and use it out of context to try and justify what you're doing? Because that's not who we are. A person who calls Jesus Lord and does what he says. Because remember, Jesus said, "Why call me Lord and you do not do what I say?" I call Jesus my Lord. Because I do that, I follow what he says. He says to love your enemies, pray for people. Administration, those who are in leadership. Not one time did Jesus come against them. Even though the apostles and the disciples, they were asking him, "Are you going to overthrow the Roman government?" He said, "That's not for you to know. But you will have power after that the Holy Spirit comes upon you. Power to be a witness unto me. Miraculous power." That's what you should be focused on. That's what he was saying. Don't be focused on the government. Focus on healing the sick, raising the dead, curing diseases, bringing the kingdom. He even said that when you come to somebody's house and you heal them, you say, "The kingdom of God has come to your house." That's what the kingdom is about, guys. So I understand wanting to get rid of the bad. But if you really want to get rid of the bad, you have to do it the way Jesus said to do it. With water, not with fire. This is the real concern, because by doing this, by joining in with the atheists, remember he said even the pagans love those who love themselves. When you're trying to take down all these statues because you don't like them morally, you are attempting to control. You're attempting to control other people. And you know what the Bible calls that? Witchcraft. You are attempting to control what people think, what people feel, and what people do. When that's not your place. It is not your place to tell somebody what they think. If they want to hate, let them hate. They have their reward, and it's not a good one. Jesus didn't go around trying to address haters, as so many sermons do. If people want to do wrong, that's them. But if I do right and let the light shine, it exposes darkness, and a lot of people want to get in on it. Who wouldn't want the power to be able to heal diseases by putting their hands on somebody and simply talking to the disease and telling it to leave? Who wouldn't want that? I know that there are people who have family members who have all types of diseases, diabetes, high blood pressures, cancers, AIDS, Alzheimer's, all types of diseases. Jesus went about doing good and healing all who were oppressed of the devil. Anything that they had, no matter who it was. They weren't saved back in Jesus' day. Nobody got saved until after the crucifixion. So people weren't saved. They were sinners. And Jesus still healed all types of diseases. He fed hungry. That's the war. Trying to fight it somewhere else, trying to fight it someplace else, trying to fight it another way, a thief and a robber. You're trying to get to the Father another way. So I implore all who call themselves Christians, who call Jesus Lord, fight with water. Don't join in with this mess of paganism, because you're not going to get the result that you want. Because by you attempting to control people based on what's morally good, what happens when those morals turn against you and your God? And they shut you down. See, that statue that you want gone so badly because you don't like it, soon that's going to be your church that they don't like. And you were in those lines to tell people what they can look at and what they can't. You are in those lines. You're the one posted on Facebook telling people that they can't even feel a certain way. Now, when you feel a certain way about your God, they're going to tell you you can't. And you need to remember that you were the one who also said that this is right. They can't feel this way. Now it's going to be turned against your God, and you won't be able to say a thing, because by the way you judged, you need to be judged too. Think about that and start loving your neighbor. Turn off the news, because it's nothing but bad news, and start going out and preaching the good news. Choice is yours. It's a good day to make the right one. Be healed. Be blessed. Be loved. Go heal. Go bless. Go love.